This is the Danger Close podcast, Beyond the Books with me, Jack Carr.
Welcome to the Danger Close podcast, an Ironclad original presented by Navy Federal Credit Union. My next novel, Only the Dead, hits shelves on May 16th and is available for pre-order anywhere you get your books right now. My guest today, Vincent Vargas. You know him as one of the stars of Mayans, but before that, he was an Army Ranger, then went to work for a private prison, then became a Border Patrol agent, and is now an actor, writer, and producer in Hollywood. So now, without further ado, Vincent Vargas. All right, what's up, man?
What's going on, dude?
Good to see you. How you doing?
Good, man. What's going on?
Oh, I'm so glad we finally got to do this. We've only been talking about it for like a year and a half, I think.
I know. Schedules are crazy.
So crazy.
I had to change this one a couple times, but I'm glad we're good. We're good. I'm
yeah.
home.
Awesome. What's behind you? What do you got going on there? What's
there's a little studio that I use for auditions and Zooming and meetings and all kinds of stuff. So it's just a room in my house I turned into kind of 3 different walls. Nice. And then I have a blank wall to the side of here for like auditioning.
Okay. Oh, nice. There you go.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's an audition space.
Because all the auditions now are all virtual for the most part, unless probably some of them are going in person in LA now, I guess. But for a while, at least, they were all sent quote unquote tapes in. Yeah.
Once you start, I think, if they call you in for a second, potentially, or they want to do bigger meetings, they'll bring you in.
Like to read with somebody or something like that. Because all the ones I saw for Terminal List as an executive producer, I got to see all those, and there were a lot. Like there were a ton of people that would just do a read, and so you have like 4 of them in there. Yeah, nice, awesome. And you'd go through and you'd click on it. It was all on the cloud or whatever, and you'd put your password in, and then click, and then give your feedback or whatever. But there were a lot of them, but they were, for a while there, at least, those were all virtual, because we were even casting that thing in the height of the COVID insanity.
Yeah, COVID actually helped me with with what I do, because I can do that from home, right? I didn't have to. I was used to be spending crazy amount of money on flights just to go to LA just to do an audition. Then COVID turned into this self-tape thing, which. Mm-hmm. Not as easy, because I don't think people really get to know the character of the person when they walk in the room and how they kind of hold the room.
Yeah.
And it's tape. You give them the best version, but it still doesn't have the same energy.
Totally. I mean, you hear all those actors talking about stories like, Matthew McConaughey had one, I think, walking in with a 6-pack or something. Like they do something that's totally different and all in character, not like going in and saying hi and then, okay, here we go, I'll do the read. But they like come in as the character, and a lot of actors have these stories that they either tried and failed, or they tried and it worked out, and they're, good stories. But you can't really, do that. You can set a 6-pack, right there on your table for a video, but it's just not the same.
Yeah, it's not the same. Actually, it's pretty much how I got Mayans. I think it was because I did I did a callback for my second audition as we're leaving the studio. My father was all excited about me landing that job, or thinking I might land it, right?
Yeah, it's huge.
So he's jumping on my back, and I'm kind of holding him, and we're just kind of doing this bro, dad, son moment. And they were watching from the top. They were watching that interaction, and they said that's actually what made Kurt Sutter go, yeah, we're going to go with him.
No way.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I wonder how many people were auditioning for that part. I mean, it's got to be a ton of people.
I don't know, man. I'm going to tell you the truth. I think it was right time, right place, right look.
Yeah. You got the look. You got the look. That's for sure.
Definitely had the look, and I already had a little bit of, training in acting. So I knew I could pull it off if for some reason I matched the character they're looking for. But I think it was right timing, because when I landed that, it wasn't more than a week later, I flew right back to start filming. So I think they were short timing on auditions. They were looking for a new face. They were looking for something different. And I think I brought some authenticity to the character that they were looking for. So, and then, I don't look like any of the other guys already casted. That's a big thing, right? If you look too much like someone else, like, doesn't work. So there's a lot of little nuances that go into like landing a role that most people don't think about. Mm-hmm. And again, it was a lotto ticket, man. I got freaking lucky, dude.
Oh man, you're awesome in it. You're the perfect guy for it. It's so awesome. There's JD's in there. You got such a great family working on that show. It's awesome. But yeah, you're right. People don't realize how much goes into it and how much kind of chance is involved because, I mean, you might want someone for a part, but guess what? They might already be booked. And your second and third and fourth choices also might already be booked. And all of a sudden you're getting close to filming time. People are going to show up on set. For us, we're flooding the Paramount studio lot with water, building a tunnel complex on that. 350 people are showing up. And you need somebody for, part X, Y, or Z. So a lot of times it comes down to that timing and who's available. But you do notice it now. I always noticed it before when actors looked too similar, like if it was a cop buddy or type thing, and you're like, gosh, it's kind of hard to tell these guys apart. Why didn't they go with someone that looks a little different? And well, maybe they wanted to, but that person wasn't available. Or there's so many different factors that come into play.
I've seen guys sign the contract the day of, minutes before walking on set.
Wow.
Like they're there, but they're still, agents are on the phone negotiating.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like, what the hell's happened? They're like, dude, they're still running numbers. And I'm like, what the dude, that's crazy. Yeah. But that's the name of the game. And also I've produced a few things before. And so it's also like, you're putting a lot of hope in this guy can reach or girl can reach the depth of the character that you've written for it, or that they've written for that person. You're putting a lot of trust that they can carry that character. And so there's a lot that goes into picking someone. That's why you kind of see familiar faces so often. They're trusted in knowing they can do that level of work. And so it's hard to trust. So that's why us as actors, we have to try and play a variety of roles. We have to show the depth of our acting. We have to be able to almost create a digital resume of how good we can be, so that someone else is like, oh, that dude's really good, and he can do emotion scenes, he can do comedy. Yeah,
that's exactly what talks we have. Yeah, and we're talking about who's going to play certain characters in the next few seasons. We're like, oh, that guy can pull it off. Oh, absolutely, that guy can pull it off. And then someone else is like, oh, but he's busy with X, Y, or Z. And you're like, oh, dang it. And so you're trying to figure out kind of this pool of people to choose from, and then see who's available. And if none of them are, you're like, okay, let's get back to the who else we have here. Who's in the bullpen. But it's fascinating. But you mentioned your dad. So your dad was a Marine, right?
Yeah, my dad was a Marine. Yeah, he was a Marine. I don't know much about his service. I think he only did serve 3 years and something on the flight deck, something on the flight crew of traffic something. Okay. Yeah, and being raised by that dude was all I needed to know that I didn't want to be a Marine.
he kept the culture.
Jerk, man.
he retained some of the Marine boot camp drill instructor persona.
All Marines tend to do that. It seems like, right? They have that. It's the pride of the Marine. It's the pride of that history. Yeah. And he's pretty tough as growing up. He was pretty, if you wake up past 7 o'clock, half the day is gone. He's already walked 5 miles, read his newspaper, and had his coffee. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's my pops, man.
Did he keep the haircut?
For a while. Yeah. For a while, he had this kind of like back then it was kind of the flat top look, right? Just very sharp flat top look. But no, he just definitely, he's always on time. He's very, very punctual with everything. He always likes to look a certain way. He's just a very, very sharp character in that. And he's always had that very stern demeanor, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, my whole life. That's right. And that's just who my dad was, man.
Yeah. What did he do when he got out of the Marine Corps?
He was doing some construction. So the cool thing, he only joined the Marines because it was either that or go to prison, go to jail, right? He used to be involved in a little bit of street gangs. Back then it wasn't like, gang banging, right? That was more turned towards my 90s growing up, the era. But he was in the era of, they would take their belts off, they'd fight with chains and pipes and stuff. And he got into an altercation with another gang. He used to be, So that's kind of what happened with him. And then his parole officer was kind of like, well, we're going to either go to the military or, spend some time in jail. And he chose the Marines. And so after he getting out of the Marines, he just went into to framing. He was a contractor, right? Just doing grunt work at a construction site, learning how to frame houses. Okay. And then it got really a rainy season, and they weren't making money. And so he went to file unemployment, and there was a sign for LA Fire Department, Los Angeles City Fire, and he applied, and he ended up going through the process, and he ended up retiring 32 years as a LA City firefighter, man.
No way. That is amazing. Dang.
Yeah, he's got a crazy career, because sometime in the middle of that, he ended up becoming a cut man in boxing, and he's now considered one of the well-known boxing cut men in the history of the
No
game.
way. That's wild.
Yeah.
What a story. He needs to write a story. I mean, you have Borderline. I want to talk about that. And when that's coming out, it's everybody should read that, especially with everything that is going on the border right now. When you sent that to me, I dove into it, and I knew a little about BORTAC and that sort of a thing because I'd done some training with them on the border when I was in the SEAL teams. But you give a great history, but it's both personal, it's history and your personal experience, and you can apply it to kind of what's going on right now. So I thought it was fantastic. But sounds like your dad should write a book too.
Yeah, he's got a cool story. He's definitely got a cool story. I might have to help him write that, but yeah, he definitely, I think that a lot of who I am is because of, my mother and father and the way they were. And, for a long time, I held a grudge against my father for being such a tough dude. But then as we get older, we start having those man-to-man talks, and I find out how his father was for him, right? His father was an abusive drunk to the family. And so, I don't take it out on my pops no more. I guess I understand what it's like being a father and trying to raise someone right, and only having the examples you have before you, and he's given me a lot of examples of, he wasn't a man that would tell me things. He wasn't a man that would be like, son, the birds and the bees. He wasn't a man that'd be like, I'm super proud of you. He'd just be a man of example. He woke up early. He worked his butt off. The house was always looking good. My mom was always well taken care of. He had respect and manners, and that was enough for me to see the kind of character of the man he was and the man he is, and how many people just loved him. He just had people that just like, man, your dad's a great dude, and it was always cool to hear that. You know what I mean? So my pops is a cool dude, and we've become closer and closer throughout the years. And I think he's just a big part of who I am and why I am.
Yeah. Oh man, well, he's got to be proud of everything that you've accomplished and done, and the example that you're setting. Speaking of that, what was the path into Ranger Bat? Like,
dude,
when did you say I'm going? Like when did that happen?
Yeah, man, I was playing college baseball at the time, and I ended up losing a full ride scholarship. I wasn't able to pay for college, and so the full ride is what I needed to kind of hold on to that dream of being a professional baseball player, hopefully. And, I failed a ceramics class, as dumb as it sounds. I just wasn't responsible enough, wasn't mature enough. I was too busy drinking and partying and everything else.
Sometimes those easy ones will get you. For anybody out there that's like just going into college and thinking like acting, ceramics, painting, whatever, public speaking, whatever that class is that you think is the easy A, sometimes those will sneak up on you.
Yeah, that's what got me. So I failed the ceramics, would put me under 2.0, which ended up losing my full ride scholarship. And so I was working at a Texas Roadhouse. After I'd get off work, I'd head over to a Buffalo Wild Wings, and it was kind of the same group of people. You walk in, they're like, hey, the same beer. And you're like, yeah, and we're drinking our beers. I have a daughter who was already born in California, and that's a situation that I'm trying to figure out myself. I've always wanted to be a dad, but, I didn't have the means for her. So my mom's helped me pay for formula and diapers. And, I'm across the country in Kentucky while they're in LA. I'm sitting next to a buddy who was a former Navy guy, and we're sitting there watching the CNN news clip. Do you remember that video of a Marine putting an American flag over the Saddam statue?
Oh, yeah.
And then they're pulling it down. It was such an iconic moment. Well, CNN or Fox News or one of them was interviewing the parents, right? The family. And they're all emotional about it. They're like so proud of their son, and they're crying. And I was like, shit, my family, I don't think has ever been that proud of me. And that was really the moment I knew. I was like, well, I can join the military. If I die in combat, well, then my daughter gets money. So that's cool. I did that because I don't have that. I also become a hero to America and serving our country and to my daughter, because I didn't know if I could be a good dad, to be honest. And then, my family would be proud. And so that next day, I just went to the recruiter and asked for what's the toughest thing they got. And it was Special Forces or Army Ranger. Eventually, I took the little test, and I scored a 108 on my GT score, which at the time they didn't have a 2-point waiver. So I went with just a Ranger contract. It was RGR Ranger 11X. Hopefully you make it. We'll see what happens.
No kidding. So it's boot camp, and then it's jump school right from boot camp.
Yep.
So
right from boot camp.
Benning, stay at Benning. Are you at Benning for that?
Yeah. You stay in Benning. So finished boot camp. I was 258, and we ended up saying hi to the family. They did a little ceremony, and then boom, we're off to jump school. We walk over there. The family takes us there. We in process. Then they let us off for dinner with the family. We say bye to our family. Boom, we're starting jump school pretty much the next day. Yeah. Jump school, I think, is 2 weeks long. Hope to God you don't get hurt.
I think it's 3. It's 3. They jam 2 weeks. They jam 2 days of training into 3 weeks.
Yeah. So I ended up doing that, and right when you're done graduating from there, the RIP cadre from Ranger Battalion, right, from Ranger Training Battalion, shows up to pick you up. You carry all your gear. You show up there. They do a whole, they scare the dog shit out of you essentially, and then they let us go for the weekend. And they know that PT test is on Monday, and if you pass, you're good. If you don't pass, you go to the holdover, which is people have been waiting there for 6 months to even attempt RIP. You know what I mean? And so you got to be ready. Luckily, we made it through, got through RIP, boom, shipped directly to Fort Lewis.
How long is RIP? Is it a few weeks?
Yeah, I think RIP at the time was probably 3 weeks as well, 3 or 4 weeks is something. I think now it's different. Right now it's considered a Ranger Assessment Selection Program, and they train a lot of the young soldiers, the standard operating procedures, so when they show up, they're not completely lost.
Got it.
Because in my time, I was getting dudes that knew nothing. They were willing to suck.
Yeah.
They don't know nothing. You know what I mean? And so we'd get guys and go overseas in 5 days and be like, look, every day we're hitting shoot houses, we're working on ready ups, we're doing the thing. Wow. And so it was definitely a different thing. I'm glad they added that, to be honest.
Yeah.
So graduated RIP, boom, shipped to Fort Lewis. We're in the in-processing section. We had an NCO show up to us and say, hey, get your DCUs. We're going overseas on the reach back bird right away. I was like, oh shit, here we go. Called my mom, like, we ain't got no time. I'm going straight over. At that same time, so much chaos happened. That was the time when the Pat Tillman incident happened. And so they ended up deciding not to send us on the reach back, and we just kind of did gate guard. We answered the phones. We pretty much were just doing whatever they told us to, and then we were just going to wait for them to redeploy and come back home. About 30 days into it, they came home, and that whole chaos happened where Ranger Battalion said, or whoever was, right, higher ups were saying that it was enemy fire, and then come to find out it was friendly fire, and then come to find out they didn't want to talk about who did it, and all of a sudden people were just getting kicked out left and right. And it was just this, for a new guy, for a 23-year-old new dude who just didn't want to get in trouble, didn't want to say anything, didn't want to get in the way. I was just watching from afar thinking like, whoa, man, this is madness. And then to hear the story, it's like, holy crap, like how did that happen? Later on, I read a couple books, and I talked to some dudes. It kind of seemed like a very hush-hush situation in battalion, and I didn't pry too much. But I was in first platoon, Alpha Company. He was in second platoon, Alpha Company. So there was a lot of angst and anger and frustration. They came home, and we were told, bring them lots of liquor, porn, and food. When they get here, and they get off the plane, and they beat the shit out of a lot of us. It was kind of we kind of knew it was coming. We were kind of like, what I mean? It was, you just let them do their thing. They were frustrated. They were upset. It was the first time seeing guys come back from combat, and the look in their eyes and the emotions that they held. And it was interesting for me. Like I said, I wasn't a kid. I was 23 years old. I had a kid. And I was able to see things through kind of a different lens, almost an older lens of like understanding. And it was pretty wild. Specialist Custer, if you're out there. Yeah, I owe him a chokehold.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh,
but within another 30 days, we ended up going back to a deployment, and that was my first deployment to Afghanistan. And then, so on and so forth. I went to the next one, went to Iraq, we went to Mosul. We had a very successful time there. We did a lot of work, and then came back. I went to Ranger School. Boom, came back, went to Afghanistan again, the second my second time in Afghanistan. And then I decided, I lost some friends when I came back from Ranger School. I wasn't able to deploy with them. They were already out there. I had a brachial plexus nerve damage in my shoulder. And so since the shoulder wasn't working fully and functionally, the battalion PA didn't let me deploy.
Yeah.
So I stayed on the reach back. And within 2 weeks of my platoon getting redeployed, coming home, we got the call, man. We got the call. We lost 2 guys, and 2 of the most influential, badass, leaders you could ever think of. The guys that you never imagined. The guys that, battalion commanders are asking them like questions and what's the approach for this. And these guys were highly respected. To me, they were the cream of the crop. And, we got the call that they were killed, and a couple other guys were injured. And it was, that was the first combat death, that I experienced. And I wasn't there, but I'm saying I experienced from losing a friend. I did lose a friend and from training, about a year prior to that. So it was another story of its own. But yeah, so when we lost those 2, that was that was really, I think, the beginning of the end for me, feeling like I had a lot of conversations with dudes. I opened up in the book about that. I had a lot of conversations with dudes, and one of them, Sergeant Barraza. He was the one who gave me the idea to join the Border Patrol. We sat in a squad room in Afghanistan. We're cleaning our weapons, and conversation comes up, and he's like, "What do you guys think about doing when you get out?" And I was like, "Firefighter, like my dad." You know what I mean? And I said it'd be cool to be a smoke jumper, because kind of combining the Army Ranger and fire, right? So that's what I thought, was like, "Oh, that'd be cool, dude." And everyone had their cops, their law enforcement of some sort, or fire, or any kind of service like that. And then you said the Border Patrol, and I was like, "Huh, I've seen those dudes." We used to go to Rosarito and Ensenada with my family all the time, and I saw those back then. It was those mint green, trucks, yeah, and never really understood anything about what they did. I also saw the movie like Coming to America or something. No, was it Born in East LA? There you go, with Cheech Marin.
Nice.
Yeah, and he's running from the immigration, right? So those movies, and I still didn't understand that, like, the depth and the capacity of what they do. And so when they died, it was like, for me, it was kind of like, okay, I can stay here and keep doing this job, which I felt like I've done my part, or I can get out and try and do other things. You know what I mean? Both of these men were ready to get out. Both of these men had plans of doing something outside of the military. And that game, man. If you're running and gunning, everyone has a number. And I didn't want to think like that. I felt like that. I didn't want to think like that. I felt like that energy alone was ugly for a mission. And when my time was up, I walked away from active duty and went to reserves. And I took my shot at the civilian life.
There you go. And do you remember when the Pat Tillman thing went down? Were people upset with the higher ups and how that was handled? Was that where a lot of that angst and frustration came from?
Yeah, man. From what I was told, is these guys weren't told who it was. Even his brother. You know what I mean? They weren't told. They even threw him they put his body in his gun truck. You know what I mean? I think they felt that. I can't say I understand. I'd say the situation would be extremely difficult as a leader to manage. And so, however they managed it, I think it was inappropriate. Right? It is wrong. It's kind of a shitty thing to say, but to not tell them who it is and not tell them how it happened, and maybe it's the fog of war at the time. They really didn't know. Maybe they had no idea, and so when they got back, they were pissed, man. Just like guys were that lost R2 in combat, they were pissed too. Like, you're just mad when you lose someone, because how did guys like us manage that stuff back then? All we knew how to do was fight, right? All we knew was anger. I didn't know how to express myself and saying, "Oh man, I love that person and it hurts me that I lost." But all I knew how to do was be angry. And so, I just think everyone was more confused, and it was the first, it was the second big loss they lost. They lost Jay Blessing before that, but it's just not easy to lose someone that right? It's not easy to lose someone that's part of your platoon, and so those guys were pretty upset about it. And and I think rightfully so. It was just a crazy situation.
Yeah, it's so crazy. Now, you didn't go to Ranger School, and it always surprises people that aren't familiar with the Army, aren't familiar with Ranger Battalion, that you can go to a Ranger Battalion and go down range and still not have gone through Ranger School, still not have passed that course. Yeah. What was that like? So you're going down range without having been through Ranger School. Are you because at this time, are you looked at, hey, he's, I'm relying on this guy, he's one of us, or is it more, or are you looked at like, hey, he hasn't even been to Ranger School? Like, what is that like? Because everybody in the SEAL teams that's a SEAL has been through buds. Like, by the time you get down range, you're not wearing that trident unless you've passed buds. So you have that in common with every other SEAL, whether they went through in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, whatever, yesterday, you have that in common. And now, maybe you have something in common, boot camp. You have jump school, but you don't yet have passing that course. Yeah,
it's a really interesting thing. It's something that no special operations units do, right? We have our own thing, and that's why most people can't even understand it. That's why, like, someone who's an officer and never went to Ranger Battalion has a Ranger tab, like, I'm an Army Ranger. We're like, I don't know, right?
Yeah. The opposite way too, right? You have the dentist that goes to Ranger School, and everybody thinks they're a Ranger because they went to Ranger School as like a leadership, course, and but they really were never at a Ranger Bat. So it's strange when you have to explain it to somebody. Even after you explain it, it's still confusing. I can see how it's confusing for people.
So I'll explain it this way. So for Ranger Battalion, for us, when you get through RIP or RASP, we consider ourselves Rangers. And yes, you get treated like garbage until you get your Ranger tab, but you get treated less like garbage when you go to combat.
Yeah.
There's a respect that's built there. There's a, we've shed sweat, tears together. And so you get treated a little bit better. I was more mature than some of these kids. They were 17, 18-year-old kids, right? They're 18, 19. I was 23 years old.
Mm-hmm. See the old man at 23.
Right. And so a lot of them kind of looked at me like, hey, Vargas, go get your knuckleheads. Let's go do work. Right. Yeah. And so I was kind of treated like that pretty fast. They saw the maturity in me. Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. And as soon as you start combat with them, there's a respect level that's there. Now you're still a punk, right? You're still non-tabbed. So you're still doing all the dirt work. You're still doing all the cleaning. You're still, you still do all the detail. Oh, yeah. But you do have respect, and that feels good because in battalion, you can't promote without that Ranger tab. And for us in Ranger Battalion, that is your way to go become an NCO. That is your only way of becoming an E5 and getting a team and then working your way towards getting a squad. And if you don't get that within 2 years, there's a bubble there that they can kick you out. They can say, you know what, dude, if you're not good, if you're not meeting the standards, you're gone. And those are for all the infantry guys. The other MOSs have a different kind of number system, whatever that is. For us infantry guys, it was like 2 years. If you reach that, you're not meeting the requirements. They call it RFS, release for standards.
Yeah. And
that was common. We had guys that attempt Ranger School and didn't make it. If they were honor violation for some reason, say they were stealing chow or whatever, boom, they're gone. If they were, if they did an AD accidentally, even with blank rounds, boom, they're gone. Like it didn't matter. Like for someone to go to Ranger Battalion and be able to get some deployments in and get the Ranger tab with that, that was a pretty successful career because we had a lot of guys, and we had per capita the biggest drinking issue on almost every base that a battalion was in, right? And so we partied hard, we drank hard, we went to war hard, you know what I mean? And so it wasn't easy for guys to show up and have a successful career. And the guys who did, it's like you hold a little bit more respect for it too. Like, man, that guy did it, right? He earned his Ranger tab. He got a team. He went overseas. The tab and scroll is valued in our community. And not to say anything, someone who doesn't earn their tab, it is what it is. They're still part of our brotherhood, but there's a little bit more of like that Ranger tab and scroll.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, he did it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
That's how it works for us.
Oh, man. All right. Today I want to talk about protect.com. That is protekt.com. Started by my buddy Nick Norris from the SEAL teams, who was recently on the podcast. He's all about health and wellness and living that best life. So what we have here, hydration, immunity, energy, rest, liquid packs. Because we all want to feel our best. We dream of waking up with plenty of energy to excel at our work, our personal lives, and have a great workout every single day. But the reality is, very few of us do that. That's why Protect was started. And you can grab a convenient pack right here. This is energy. So this has been boosting me through my latest novel. And look at that. It's a liquid pack right there. You just, bam, add it to a glass, add a little water, and you are good to go. So hydration, love the hydration and the immunity and the clarity, which I'm going to take as soon as this podcast is over and I get back to writing. So all of that plus the rest. How important is that rest? Right here, take that an hour and a half before bed for some great sleep. And for hydration right here, 30 minutes after you wake up and right before your workout. So swap that daily energy drink for the energy. Try that hydration, that immunity, that rest. And they also have products like this, Reef Safe Sunscreen, SPF 50. Protect right there. And right now you can get 25% off. Go to protekt.com. That is protekt.com/dangerclose for 25% off. Go check them out. So, in all that training and deployments downrange, what did you take away from that time in the military, time downrange, and applying today to what you're doing, or applied to Border Patrol after that, or applying to acting or family today? What are some of those lessons you took from Iraq and Afghanistan and applied to your life and took with you?
Man, I think is where I've earned a lot of empathy for the world. You know what I mean? I just, like I said, I think I was older and I was able to I wasn't the guy that was sucked into the raw Ranger, hardcore infantry, no emotions. I was the guy that sat back like, man, this is fucking crazy. Right. You know what I mean? I sat back and genuinely I remember going into a house way up in the hills of Afghanistan and cracking a chem light, and the kids were scared, right? We like kicked in the door. They've probably seen guys like us maybe 3 other times in their life, if that, right? And that's how desolate and in the middle of nowhere this place was. We kick in the door and everyone's screaming. The mom screaming, the dad screaming. We snatched them up, and the kids are freaking out. And we cracked the chem light, and at first they were like, "Whoa!" And then like I just waved it in their hand and handed it to them. Bro, like that alone was like, I've never forgotten. Yeah. And I've always thrown me for a loop of like, man, I don't know. So it gave me empathy. I see the world. I see that, they're, even though these terrorists are fighting their fight, that their beliefs that are extremely crazy, we're fighting ours. You know what I mean? It's like this really interesting thing that I've always seen. It didn't make me less dangerous. I wanted to go out there and just win the fight, right? I'm a competitive person. I wanted to make sure my brothers to the left and right were always safe. But at the end of it, almost every time we're driving back to the FOB, back to our spot, or on the helicopter I would be like, holy shit, this is fucking wild. You know what I mean? And,
oh yeah, I know that feeling.
Yeah, and I gave a shit. I gave a shit. Even if, even if a mission where we had, we had a couple missions, you have engagements and we walk away and you're like, count the bodies, and you're just like, holy crap, man! Like this is a wild life. You know what I mean? And so I think I've carried that on with me forever. I think it's made me, I think, more in tune with my emotions. It's made me more understanding of people's like choices, and not to say that like it's just I can sit here and be like, okay, I see why they did that. Like becoming a border patrol agent was like just like that. Like, look, I'm Mexican and Puerto Rican. My grandmother crossed illegally. You know what I mean? So like now I'm stopping these people from coming across, right? And crazy. Yeah, I'm empathetic. Yeah. I get why they freaking come, and I know why what they're looking for is this land of opportunity that my grandmother did the same thing for. Right? And so as much as I understand that, I also understand this time in our life is different. You got Homeland Security, there's a huge factor, and the people that I was chasing in Afghanistan and Iraq are now entering the borders from Mexico.
Isn't that crazy?
So, right. And I know that, right? And not everyone in the room would ever understand. They'd be like, yeah, I've heard that. Yeah. Like, no, in my head, I'm like, yeah, but if I can catch that one, if I can stop that one, dude, that's a lot of value, and so you do the job the best you can. And that's what I do there. And then fast forwarding to Hollywood, it's like, I feel like I understand emotions, the Rolodex of emotions, from anger to pain. I know what it's like to see a wife screaming that her husband's no longer with her. I know that emotion. It's ugly, right? I know emotions of seeing kids get hurt, right? I know the emotions of what it was to see a wife hug her husband in his casket. I know what it's like for being a friend to lose someone. And I know these like Rolodex of emotions, and I've been able to kind of like file them in a way where I can always reach them. And because as an actor, it's kind of what we have to be good at, right? We have to be able to use that Rolodex of emotions to bring truth to whatever character, whatever lines are being told. And so I think because I've had this interesting life before acting, I feel like I have a lot of that ready to use, you know what I mean? Kind of in the holster, if you will. And I think that's also why I love what I do. Being an actor is almost therapeutic. You know what I mean? I can't walk around crying all goddamn day. I can't get shit done.
But if you're getting paid for it,
I better make it pay for it. Yeah, we're good.
And that's tough. People realize, they're like, it's so easy. You just show up on set, you act, and then you leave. It's such an easy. Now that I've seen it close up and have been involved with the production, from inception all the way through marketing and distribution, essentially. Now I see it is not easy. And I was always, I'm always try to be thoughtful and understanding. But now you see it, and then when you're talking about what you're talking about, and it's not just sitting down across the table from somebody and having a conversation over beers and remembering your lines. When you have to actually dig deep into those emotions, and there are 350 people on set, maybe in that room there's 10, whatever it is, right. And you're doing that in front of all these people and all of it. So you have the responsibility of performing. Because you're carrying a show, you're carrying that scene, you're helping that other actor, whatever it is, and that's a lot of pressure in and of itself. But then, not only that, it's the time of this whole production. You've got whatever it is, 5 days, 6 days, 7 days for an episode of Mayans, whatever you guys have per episode, and you're on the clock. Like you can't be like, I'm not feeling this today, let's just do this tomorrow. Like, no, you got to get it right there. And everybody out there who has a job because of what you're doing in that room, like that's on your shoulders too. Yes. And then you got to go to the next scene and maybe it's totally different. And maybe you're in it or maybe you're off for the day. Who knows? But it could take it's tough. And then if you're doing that away from your family and you're away for 6 months, 5 months, 4 months, 3 months on a production overseas, like it's not quite as easy as it might seem from the outside. If you're just seeing a 3-minute clip on like Entertainment Tonight back in the day and it looks glamorous, like there's a lot to it. There's a lot more to it.
No, exactly. And that's kind of the crazy thing. Like it's not uncommon to do 14-hour days, 15-hour days, 16-hour days. Right. And it's like, then you also have to hold your emotion for that long. And then you have to, if you're going to cry, then you have to cry probably 5 or 6 times to make sure they get the right angle of that cry. Yeah. Like, are you kidding me? Yeah. And it's been fun. It's been fun. I think a lot of military kind of mindset on set does well. You know, the hurry up and wait is very common. The hierarchy of a rank structure, right? Knowing your place, knowing just to shut up and go where you need to go until it's time to play, right? And having good manners and being a good person, all that stuff goes a long way because film production is a small world, and you burn one bridge, you might as well burn a few of those. Oh yeah. Because people will talk. It's like any other business. People will talk and be like, you know what? Maybe we go with somebody else. Or the opposite, just like in anything in life. That guy in the military, that guy's awesome. Like I want him on my team. I want him on this deployment. I want him in this position because of X, Y, or Z. Like it's the same with anything in life. You know, no one's going to want to spend time with somebody, even if they're a high performer. I've seen a little bit of this too. If you're a super high performer, but you're bringing the whole production down, you're bringing that whole team down in the military, guess what? Yep. No, you're not. Peer reviews. You're not invited back. You know, it's interesting. That's just life in general. Were you an A-dub guy at Ranger Bat, by the way? Were you on the automatic weapon? What were you carrying over there? So I started off a Gustav guy. So I was just because I'm bigger than everybody. Right? Yeah, that's why I thought A-dub. But so a Gustav guy, that's like a thing. Like you're not that and something else. I mean, except rifleman. At first you're an AT team. I was on an AT team. It was my gunner who was senior to me. And I carried the ammo and I carried a couple other things that we just carried. And then we also had our full, 7 mag and my rifle. And so on just like my first deployment in Afghanistan, we were fast roping down with I had 4 rounds on my back. I had whatever he told me to carry that day. I carried those. He carried the gun, and boom, we would go to a high point and stand there. And if we needed to fire, we'd load and we'd go. I'd laze the target and I'd say 300 meters, and we'd do our thing. For people listening right now, look up Carl Gustav on internet, YouTube, whatever. There'll be some good pictures of it, descriptions of it. But essentially, you're carrying warheads on your back, and different ones can do different things. They're like 11 pounds to 15 pounds each, depending on which one it is. HE, DP, whatever it is, right? The rifle itself it's an 84 millimeter recoilless rifle. It's about 34 pounds. You know what I mean? So you're carrying some weight on top of the stuff you're already carrying, and your job is meant for one thing: is when they need you, you need to blow shit up. Yeah. And those things. If I have a really good buddy on the same AT team, he was on a different platoon. He used that bad boy and fired off 6 rounds within like seconds just to help him get out of an ambush. Yeah. And so that is the ambush saver. Someone gets an ambush. A lot of guys, there's a lot of stories of the Gustav. Its intensity of just the noise and loud alone it makes is so overwhelming. It's like, oh, what the hell was that? You know what I mean? But they're also crazy, dude. They're not healthy for us to be shooting as many. No, I think there's actually some sort of a regulation that says you're only allowed to shoot like, I don't know, 2 a day, and they have to be spread out by 30 minutes. That's wrong, but there's some sort of a regulation out there. If I remember correctly, it was something like 4 to 6 rounds a day, and that's it. But we would go to ranges, they'd be like, hey, we have 97 rounds. Let's get them done. Exactly. And then if you're training and you're a training guy out there and you're next to the guy that's being taught and you have, I don't know, 30 guys to go through or 60 guys in a line that are waiting, that they're supposed to go up and go through their procedures and show that they can do it. If it's a FAM or if it's whatever it is. And that one guy, maybe they switch out a couple instructors perhaps, but he's sitting there with like the same kind of noise canceling headsets that we have on when we go to the range, and boom, he's getting all of it. Like he's getting 60 of those. It's crazy. That can mess people up. It's so unhealthy. I think it's why I tested positive for TBI, and I full-heartedly believe it was that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because, I mean, we do those ranges, and I remember when we fired off like 60 in one day one time, and we were all like, we took the day off. It was the next day when we were beat up. I felt like I had a fever. You know, it was just you just didn't feel right. You know what I mean? And it's just so powerful. But also, we used to train like that, right? We used to train stupid. We sit inside the room and they'd flashbang the room. Like, you got to know what it feels like. You know, you're like, oh, okay.
Oh, so you got to know what it feels like. That generation. Yeah. I remember when I first got to the team, they wanted us to go through an IAD. So like contact left and everybody drops down in their fields of fire, start shooting. Back then we just had like, you had to pretend you didn't see the paper targets, but eventually we had these cool ones that would pop up and then go down and they looked like they were shooting at you. They had smoke. Someone was there with like an iPad type of a thing, putting them down, putting them back up, like actually maneuvering you, how they wanted to put you, you know, through the desert or the mountains or whatever it was. But man, those were, they wanted you to go without ear pro, you know, and you're next to like the A-dub, you know, I was a communicator back then. And so, you know, I'm on my rifle and I have the radio and there's an A-dub next to me. I think maybe on either side, just getting after it because it's still Vietnam tactics back then in the late 90s before September 11th. And so back then Vietnam tactics were like contact, everything just goes into that jungle, just and so that's what we did. Yeah. So you're getting that right next to your head. And then same thing with sniper school. You're doing that as a spotter or as a shooter, either way. But as a spotter, it's worse, running that the 50 cal. And so ours wasn't the Barrett. Ours was a McMillan and on a Remington 700 action. But boom, I mean, and with a break at the end. So that means it's, for those listening, you're putting like, you know, that concussion, I guess, you know, out the sides. So you're right there as the spotter, just taking that, and you're shooting a lot in sniper school. So that rattles you as well. And I've read that's not particularly healthy.
Yeah, that's not, no. So once I finished some time at that deployment, you know, midway through that deployment, I got pulled into a team just because they needed some extra guys. A couple guys got hurt on a fast rope. So I started kind of doing the basics of like, you know, on a gun team or on a team. And then I went to the gun team. So I was in, you know, an AB and a gunner and all that for a short stint, because I got pulled into a platoon and became a saw gunner for a squad. So, you know, same thing maturity wise. They were just like, hey, let's get this guy a saw gun and let's go. And so when I went to Missoula, I was a saw gunner. Oh,
nice. Getting after it, man. Wild. So so then you decide, you're talking to your friend and he mentions Border Patrol and you start thinking about that. What was that process like? Going in, putting in an application, getting accepted, going to poly, doing a background check, going to the academy, and then going to your first, and you call it a station or an outstation or whatever you call it. Like, what does that process look like?
Yeah. So at first I went to become a prison guard at a private prison. It was just like the easiest job. Oh man. And right when I got there, I was like, screw this. I need a different job.
And what state was that in?
I was in Arizona. I was in a private prison called Corrections Corporation of America, CCA, out of Florence, Arizona. And so I was at a facility called CADC, which is just correctional detention center. Yeah. Essentially, it was like any federal contract at the time. Mm-hmm. We had all kinds of different stuff, immigration contract. We had all kinds of different stuff. And then once I kind of did that for like a month, I was already like, this is not what I want to do. I need to get out of here. So I applied for the Border Patrol.
That's tough for those listening. I mean,
the prison system is an interesting one. I would have always loved to advance all the way up to be a warden, because I think that's kind of a cool position to be. But being just a boots on the ground corrections officer can be very challenging. And it was even more challenging being in a private prison, because a private prison, they didn't have the same, I guess, requirements. You know, they hired me. I was the youngest, like kind of a young stud in the area. Then they hired a couple other dudes who did, you know, 20, 30 years at the BOP or state prison. They're just there to collect another check. And so I was like the most active dude in my academy, kind of, if you will. And so if the fight popped off, they're like, Vargas, there's a fight in 500. And you're like, okay. And I'm running over there and I'm getting into all different. Yeah, man. Within the first month, I said a story. In the first month, they said, hey, we need you for a cell extraction. You're going to be the team leader. I've never done cell extraction besides training, right?
So what's the cell extraction, other than I can picture? Is it getting one person out, or are there two people, or are there in a fight?
So it all depends. And on this one, it was two dudes. One of them was in there for murder. One was in there for attempted murder. They're both natives. They made some hooch, right? They made their own Pruno, which is like a gel-made wine, kind of like a Yeah, it's just like a whiskey or whatever they make it, depending on what they made it out of. They usually collect their oranges. Most of the time is what they do. They change their diet plan. They say they're kosher. They get oranges in their meal. They save them and they make wine out of it, right? Usually for a birthday or something. So these guys are already drunk off their minds. They call me and say, hey, we need you to be a team leader for a cell extraction. I was like, okay, what do we got? They said 2 dudes. One's in for murder, one's in for... I already knew who the inmates were. I was like, oh, shoot. Like these guys, like the one guy who was in for murder, he killed a woman. And he killed her very ugly, like aggressively ugly. The story is just nasty. I won't even say. And so I'm like, oh, this is my first cell extraction outside of training. In training, we didn't really do it. We did a walkthrough of what the situation and how it works, right? We watched videos on it. So I'm like, okay, let's do this. They said, pick your guys. I picked kind of the guys I thought would do well enough. And then I picked this guy, this really big dude, thinking like he would help too, you know? And the way you do a 2-man cell extraction is you have 2 shield guys. There might 1 and 2 men in the room. The team leader, me, will be 3, and then the other guys are behind me. And then you always have a cameraman documenting everything for lawsuits, right? And so the first 2 men is the shield man. The shield 1 is supposed to pin one guy to the wall. Shield 2 is supposed to pin the other guy to the wall. Me as a team leader is supposed to kind of control the room, and everyone has a certain appendage they're going to grab. The left arm, like upper left arm, right arm, left leg, blah, blah. And we're supposed to secure them, take them down, and cuff them up. That's just the plan. Normally, you introduce chemical munitions, OCCS, whatever it is. So we get there, and they have toilet paper over the window. And I was like, oh, crap, this is kind of crazy. I look through, and I'm like trying to see what I see. And I see these dudes look like ninjas, bro. They got their bed sheets. They wrapped around their stomach. They put sandals around their elbows and knees, like knee pads and elbow pads. Yeah. They had face masks. I was like, these are fucking ninjas, dude. And I was seriously like this. Like, I looked over, I was like, bro, you see? He goes, yeah, I know. Holy shit. They didn't train me for this one. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they didn't train us out ninjas.
So I told the captain, I said, drop a munition in there. And he dropped a can of OCCS mix. And that's probably the best mixture you can use in there. And they grabbed it, and I heard them grab it and then throw it somewhere. I heard a bloop, and I was like, what the hell? What the hell happened? Well, they broke out their back window too. So they just threw it out the back window. So it had no effect on them. At the time, I don't know what it was, but the captain was like, hey, let's go. They shouldn't have anything else. We opened up the food trap to try and get them to cuff one more time. They threw some broken toilet at us, and it hit me in the thigh. And I was like, what the hell was that? Well, for some reason, this segregation unit, private prison kind of stuff, right? This segregation unit had porcelain toilets. And so they broke the porchalon toilet out. Now they have all kinds of weapons for us.
Holy.
Yeah.
I thought they were stainless. I thought
it should have been. Like half the place was stainless. And for some reason, in this pod was fucking porcelain toilets. And so these dudes broke it off, and they have all these little pieces in there. And he threw part of that toilet through the food trap, right? That hit me. And I was like, what the hell? And the captain's like, well, they got nothing else. Let's go. And he opens the door, dude. And the first dude goes in, the first shieldman goes in, and he slips and falls. The second guy goes in, he slips and falls because they butter the floor up with soap. And so they both fell. And I'm standing there like, oh shit. And the biggest dude, the dude that was in there for murder, I see him swinging his arm kind of like this. He's doing this. And I'm sitting there thinking like, man, everything was slow motion for me at that time. Like, dude, 30 days prior, I'm in Afghanistan, or it was probably like 45 days or so. I was in Afghanistan clearing houses, right? With a rifle in my hand, my team and everything. You know what I'm saying? Now I'm in this prison, and this dude's doing this weird wand thing, and everything slows down. I've never seen anything like this. I was like, what is he doing? And I realized he put part of the broken toilet inside of a sock, and he's beating the fucking shit out of me, dude. And I didn't realize it because I felt nothing other than watching him like, what a weird hand gesture I'm seeing, you know? And then I was like, oh shit, he's beating the fuck out of me. So I grabbed him by his chest, and I started just closed fist, just punching him. And that's absolutely illegal. We're not supposed to do that. But by that time, the cameraman's already on his ass too. What
are you supposed to do? Are you going? What weapons do you have? Do you have like a baton, or do you have like an asp, or what do you have?
Nothing.
Nothing.
No, because what you do is if you have something, well, now they can potentially have something. So we have a radio. You know what I mean? We have a radio and hopefully manpower.
Like no taser. You can't like toss in the smoke and then, or the CS and then like just let them have it with a friggin' taser shotgun or something.
There's different things we probably could have done. Now, knowing now, there's definitely things I could have left them in that room and just gassed the hell out of them. But I didn't know any better, right? The captain's like, let's just go in, right? There's things like stun shields. I probably could have brought a stun shield with me instead. But again, it's 30 days on the job.
Yeah, seriously.
I know nothing. You know?
What if you just starve them? What if you just leave them in there? Be like, all right, have fun. See ya.
Private prison. Who makes the money? They make the money. Who's the liability? We are. the corrections officers. That's why the private prison is just a shady business that I don't support.
Yeah.
Right. It's just a weird business.
Yeah.
Right. And so, yeah, we fought it out. He slipped and fell. He dislocated his shoulder. And I kept beating his ass because I was so freaked out by this. Like, what the hell? And they pulled him off him. We cuffed him up. We cuffed the other dude up. And it was just a madhouse. And I drove home that day thinking like, holy shit.
That's crazy.
Yeah, dude. It was tough.
Because there's nothing to extend your range. He's got something extending his range, essentially improvised weapon. And like he could have had placed that porcelain that wrapped with a little bit of that bed sheet right here for a handle, little shank, whatever else, draw you in close. And your striking distance is here and your leg.
we have a chest plate, right? We're wearing they call us ninja turtles. We have a headgear, chest plate, shin guards, like football shin guards, and I think some kind of gloves. But
so something.
Oh no, man. It was just it was an experience that I never thought I would ever have to experience because like going overseas, you have so many tools, you know what I mean? In Iraq and Afghanistan, we have tools that make me feel more confident going into a room, right? In this room, I have a radio and I have friends I hope to God can fight, right? And luckily I've fought in my past, so I was willing to just, I honestly told myself like, oh dude, this guy would kill me if he has a chance, so I have to fight. So I just started punching him like crazy. It was pretty wild.
That's insanity. So you went home and you're like, okay, I think I'm going to do something else.
I was like, let's see.
Let's see. Job openings. Google.
So I applied for the Border Patrol. The hiring process took me about 2 years because in that 2 years, I had to freeze the hiring because I went to drill sergeant school. And then once I graduated drill sergeant school, I was able to reopen up the hiring. And then boom, in June 2009, I became a Border Patrol agent. Yeah. And what they do is, they offer you a location. It was a location I definitely did not want. They said, hey, Mr. Vargas, we're going to offer you a position at Eagle Pass, Texas. It's part of the Del Rio sector. And
I heard a lot about that recently.
Yeah. That's the hotbed right now, right? And they said it's Del Rio sector. We're going to give you the Eagle Pass North Station. And I was like, yes, right? Because I was terrified of saying no. Yeah. I don't know what's coming up. I don't know. Later, I find out you can say no to them 2 times. They'll offer you different locations. I wasn't about that life. I was like, I need this job. I want to get the hell out of the prison. Let's go.
Yeah.
So I said yes. And, finished the academy. It took about 6 months because I had to do the Spanish portion. I am not bilingual. And so that made you stay there a little bit longer. The academy was cool, man. It was like a military version of law enforcement, right? It was very, I marched, they made me a class leader. Obviously I'm a drill sergeant. So they made me the class leader. I'm marching everyone around, showing people how to shine their boots, showing them how to press their uniforms. We have PT sessions that are awesome. The PT cadre were studs. They were like drill sergeants all over again, but like they do every rep with you. Like it's a super cool environment.
Oh, wow. Where is it?
Mine was in Artesia, New Mexico. Some probably went to, there was a FLETC before that in Glencoe, Georgia. And so, yeah, I think for now, all of them are going to be at Artesia, New Mexico since my time. That was in 2009. And it was cool, man. Seriously, the training was high speed. It was a lot more in depth than I thought. The education portion was challenging, like learning immigration law, then learning I think it's called Nat law. It's been a while, but learning law was tough. Learning everything about this damn thing was challenging besides like the PT portion that I just kind of enjoyed. It was just like being in the military again. But the physical requirements was good. The mental requirements were challenging, man. And it was like living at college. That's what it was like. It was like living at college. And then, when you graduate, you get released to your sector.
Are you doing firearms training and stuff then too?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
What are you guys shooting? What are you guys?
We're shooting an HK P2000. It was a very interesting pistol. Coming from Ranger Battalion, I could shoot a rifle really well. I didn't shoot a pistol very well. We never learned.
Yeah.
We learned very, very basics of a pistol, and that's only if you're on a gun team you carried it. I wasn't on a gun team long enough to be proficient at it. I can qualify with a 9mm Beretta, right? But like to shoot a P2000, the interesting thing about that pistol of choice, and I believe they changed it from then, that the trigger has no slack until the last minute to the wall, and then you pull it. So it's supposed to be easier for like a kind of a newer shooter, but I found it to be a challenge, man. And yeah, that's the pistol we use is a P2000. The rifle is just regular M4, and then we learned how to shoot a shotgun.
Nice. What shotgun you guys have?
I don't even know, man. I have no idea. I never touched the damn thing after I was done with that.
Someone will say in the comments that probably a Mossberg 590 or Remington 870 or maybe an autoloader of some sort. Yeah, I don't know.
No idea. I was never a shotgun guy in my whole entire life, and I used a shotgun for breaching when I was in the military, and that's about the extent of what I ever want to use.
Most military is just for breaching, but you can shoot that thing like a rifle. I love the shotgun. I got taught by some guys that knew what they were doing with it back in the day, and so we learned to shoot that thing like a rifle essentially. But
there's some new ones nowadays that look like an AR platform shotgun, which are super sweet, and yeah, those I'd be down with. But the one in the military, it was like, what do you choose for your long arm, right? Do you want an M4 or do you want a shotgun? I was like, I'm M4. That's the only thing I'm proficient at, right? I really know it. And so, yeah, we did that. We did some cool tactics in there. We did some driving training.
Nice.
That was fun. We did all kinds of stuff. It's a really cool, very extensive academy. I've never done anything like that because I've never done law enforcement. The prison system didn't have that for this private prison. So it was my first real kind of like academy I've ever done. And I had a blast. Then you get to your unit and you kind of have to go through the whole FTO phase, right? Field training.
Did you do poly before this? Did they poly you before you go to the academy?
Dude. Okay, I have a story. So they did poly before you even get to the academy.
And it's not a lifestyle. It's not a lifestyle poly, right? For those who have been to like the agency, CIA, it's like it's more like criminal background type poly. Yeah, right?
Drugs, background, that kind of thing. It's an interesting thing because I never had to do it. I got very fortunate. I left Ranger Battalion with the TS clearance, right? Like a high level TS clearance. And so there was some question about like drug history in my past, high school days, whatever. And they were like concerned. They were like, well, normally this would be a concern of ours, but you haven't shown any kind of things. You've been in the military this whole time, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, yeah. And they were like, okay, well, we're going to waive the polygraph for you because of your clearance you have in the military. Because I still had the clearance. It wasn't going away. And dude, that was a blessing because I've had very good people fail that polygraph for things that didn't make sense, right? Guys, like one guy, he said he stole like an ice cream from a store when he was like 7, and they booted him. They said no, and so it's a very, very challenging test.
Yeah,
a lot of guys I know who I think are better men than me couldn't get through it, and I think
don't go in cold. I mean, if you're a good dude, you're listening to this, like, I don't know. It might make sense to study a little bit, or read my 4th novel. I use the poly as a way to catch readers up on what's happened on the first 3. So I have a polygraph guy going through with James Reese, my main character. So I kind of use the poly because I went through it. But it's an interesting thing, and there's a reason it's not admissible in a court of law in the United States. Like there's a reason. So maybe do a little research on that before you sit down in that chair. Going with the plan. Going with the plan. Like with anything in life.
Yeah.
Don't wing it, I don't think. Don't wing it in there.
I was blessed. I didn't have to do it. And so I was, I knew it was a straight shot from there. And so
nice.
After the academy, I went to my sector and started to work, man.
And they throw you right on a team and you're like day one, you show up. Is it kind of like, what you see on TV is a new cop type thing? You have somebody that's experienced, or you just like thrown in the car and they're like, hey, go cut sign and go do your thing.
They have this interesting like process where you start as an FTO in an FTO unit. So you have one guy.
So field training officer for those listening.
So you have one dude training about 5 of us, kind of the lay of the land. He slowly introduces how to cut signs, slowly introduces like what it's like to apprehend, slowly shows us what it's like to process someone after you've apprehended them. So within a few weeks of working with him, we kind of get the lay of the land and understanding, and then we slowly start integrating with our unit. In our unit, we have another field training officer, but that is just a one-on-one. That's like the senior dude and you, and they're kind of writing reports on you throughout the time, and they all have to give you a good report to make sure that you get you get brought on as a journeyman. But once you're with your dude, you're an agent, man. You're catching dope. You're chasing groups. You're in failure to yield. You're all in it. You're a dude. You're already doing the job. And so once you get off that field training officer kind of moment and get thrown into your unit, you're doing the job, man. And there's times they expect you to do a lot, and being new, it was a lot of overwhelming stuff to manage. And you have to, before you get on, be able to try out for any special operations, you have to do 2 years in the Border Patrol. I don't know if that's true now. I've heard they're trying to waive that for special operations guys with special operations backgrounds. But still, it was 2 years I had to do before I could even try out for any kind of special operations unit. And so I was just kind of doing my time, and by chance, I got lucky. The military activated me to be a drill sergeant for one of those years.
Okay.
So I was like, I love you guys. I'm out. Got to go to Fort Sill, push troops for a year.
Really?
Yep, dude, it was crazy how it went down. And then I came back and I had about 2 months to finish off some paperwork. And then boom, I was able to try out for my first special operations team.
Okay, man.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what a crazy thing to do, to throw somebody in a vehicle, off you go. You're essentially, the one person standing on a line with no fence, and you're the border in a lot of places. I got to go with the BORTAC guys. I want to ask you about that in a second, but I got to really fortunate that I got to do a tracking course with them for a week, or maybe it was 2, or at least a week, down in San Diego. And that was really cool. And it ended up, we all got to go out with just like eventually with one other person, with one Border Patrol BORTAC guy, and just be with him for a few days. And we just did the stuff and kind of like more normal Border Patrol stuff, but he was just showing us that side of it, mostly the tracking, because that was the course was about, the tracking, and seeing all the things that people coming across do. It's adapting to what we're doing, and then they're adapting, just like warfare. But what was cool, was appealing to me about it, was that I was alone. Like, I was coming from a team, and then it was just me and this one BORTAC guy, and we're out there, and it's just us, and we're talking about the times that you are alone out there. And, that part of that is appealing. And part of it's like, well, where's the rest of the guy? Where's your backup? who are you sending to like flank as you're coming in here to get them in an L ambush just in case you need to, or whatever. And it didn't exist in a lot of cases. And so I'm learning about the tracking. I'm learning about what people coming across are doing, to evade capture. And that was really appealing. Like having a pistol, a rifle, and a shotgun, and your Bronco, or whatever it was, that's pretty dang cool. Kind of like a wildlife enforcement type of warden. Like, you're out there alone, and these people armed, or are they not? Who are they? Are they just coming across, or are they coming across with some sort of nefarious intent other than just coming across illegally? But man, it's wild.
Dude, it's insane. So when I was in the academy, we already heard there was one border patrol who was killed. Then he was killed. What we heard was kind of like an ambush. He went to go check a bug, which is like a sensor. He went to go check that location, and something happened in there, an altercation with other illegal immigrants that chose to kill him. And so we knew that story. And
did they have an AK? Was the AK?
No, what I believe is I'll tell you that one later.
Okay.
But this one, what was heard, and I could be wrong, but it was killed him with his own service pistol. Pretty much beat him up, and then took his own service pistol and shot him. Right. And then as I'm activated with the military, I hear the story of Brian Terry. Right, so Brian Terry was killed, right? And Brian Terry was a BORTACer who was on an operation, and there was a RIP crews in the area, and one of the RIP crews came with AK-47s, and they engaged, and they hit Brian Terry and it killed him on scene.
For people interested in more about that, you can read Katie Pavlich's book called Fast and the Furious. Yes, absolutely, and I touch on that in my book as well, because I felt I had to give honor to that. He's the reason why I went medical instead of BORTAC. Yeah, okay. I went BORSTAR because of that. But yeah, and so you hear these stories, these stories, and you're sitting there like, man, you never know, right? And it is us, and sometimes it's 2 hours between you and anyone else, and half the time you're working at dark, because that's when the traffic works, right? Traffic is happening at night. Doesn't happen in broad daylight very often. It's at night. The sun goes down, boom, everyone's out. And so you're in the middle of nowhere by yourself. It's easy to spook yourself. It's easy to have all these thoughts, right? And it's easy to, like, when you see a group or you're trying to apprehend a group, you're like, yo, I need backup. And you're running and going. You hear these calls over the radio. They're hasty, like, hey, I got bodies. And you're like, oh, location, where's your location? And dude, we're jumping in our trucks and we're driving as fast as we can. And it could take us 20 minutes, and you hope to God that they're safe at the time. And it's a very, dude, people don't understand the job and how challenging it can be. And all because you're trying to do a righteous thing by just protecting the land. You know what I'm saying? It's an interesting space. Oh, it really is, man. And so BORTAC, for those that don't know, it's like the Border Patrol Special Operations Unit. Is that the best way to describe them?
Yeah, it's like our Border Patrol's version of SWAT. They're our tactical team. They do anything that a SWAT team can do, we do as well. But they also, they do all the Border Patrol work as well. So they're just very well-rounded, and I believe one of the best tactical units in the world at the moment, man. Yeah,
I was super impressed working with those the guys just in training. I learned a ton from those guys. And then BORSTAR, so that's the search and rescue unit. Yeah. So does each station have a BORSTAR, or is that how it works? Or is it like sectors?
same as BORTAC, you know. So, you know, when it first started, it was really just kind of like to help with, you know, a lot of legal immigrants come over and they're dehydrated, they have their feet are messed up from coming across, to get bit by snakes, whatever the case, right? And so it was initially started to, one, help with the Border Patrol agents themselves that maybe be affected by the heat or whatever the case, but as well as the illegal immigrants, you know, who might call 911 because they're stuck on a hill or a cliff or whatever the case. And so it's eventually evolved into being more integrated with BORTAC, and there's a wing of it that is the tactical medicine side of it, and that's what I did. But we are kind of like the civilian version of a PJ, of a pararescue jumper. You know, we can do long line rescues, we can do swift water rescues. I've done all that. We do medical. A lot of our guys are off steer. A lot of them are paramedics. You know, we as EMTs or EMTIs, which back then they had EMTIs, so we were able to do intubations. We were able to do, you know, tubes, because of the fact that we are 2 hours usually from definitive care. So we had to have a little bit higher level of medical training. And then eventually, you know, with the whole Brian Terry situation, they started to understand that for some reason the Border Patrol is years behind, right? I'm not sure why, but the Border Patrol's concepts was year behind. Like, why wouldn't you have a medic on the team? Why wouldn't you have it attached, right? Because to me, it's what we did in special operations. I love my medics. They were always with us, you know what I mean? And same as on all the teams, right? All the special operations teams. For some reason, BORTAC, they pushed against that. You know, they had their basics of TCCC, but they didn't have a medic on standby. Wow. And if they did, they were in the truck, you know, an hour away. You know what I mean? So it's really weird thought process that didn't age well, right? Yeah. Because eventually you start to realize, well, why aren't we doing the same as what special operations does overseas? And so eventually, a lot of us who were interested in doing the tactical medicine side of it started to integrate with the teams and become, you know, just one with the team. Nice. And I started doing that in Del Rio. I became, you know, they knew I was a Ranger, right? They trusted me. They were like, hey, we'd love to have you as a medic. I'm like, let's do it. Started activating with them down to La Grulla and Rio and McAllen at the time was the hotbed of drugs and illegal immigration. And so we were running ops down there for a while. It was almost like a deployment, right? We called it like a little bit of a deployment because we would leave for like 4 months or 3 months at a time and work down there and do as much as we can. And then we'd head back home and did a couple rounds of that. And then I got laterally transferred to SOG, Special Operations Group. That's like I'm going to say this lightly, but it's like our DEF group, right? It's like our SOG, but you know, I'm going to say it that way, but
perfect.
I don't want to really compare it that way. But it is kind of it's our national and also worldwide response team. If there's a need, we pull from the SOG to go worldwide. We can go anywhere. And so, and it is kind of version of the tier 1 version of us. We're at the flagpole. We're the headquarters. We have all the funding. And so I went to the SOG and I helped them kind of integrate the tactical medicine into the BORSTAR selection. I became a cadre for BORSTAR selection for the national teams. And I helped run a lot of the TCCC. Essentially, I integrated the standard operating procedures for tactics into BORSTAR so that BORSTAR medics can have a little bit more fundamentals of clearing rooms, of patrolling and understanding that side of things. Yeah. And then, you know, after my couple of years of that, I was like, it's time to get back on a team. I talked to one of the BORTACers who was a former Ranger. I said, bro, throw me in as a medic. Let's go. And boom, I was working with them until I ended up leaving in 2015.
No kidding. What is this where you do the tracking those guys that escaped from prison? Who are those guys?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Richard, Matt, and David Sweat or something?
Yeah, man. It was kind of crazy. So we just got back from doing an op with some other 3-letter agencies, and you know, all our gear was ready because we just got done working, you know what I mean? And I went home, I was having dinner with the kids. I was setting up a birthday party for one of my daughters, and man, my team leader, he calls me and goes, hey, Vargas, it's time. We got another mission. I'm like, oh, okay. We were all kind of watching, bro. We all kind of watched it. We saw it on the news and we're like, when are they going to call us? You know, or if they're gonna, right? Is it, you know, we get called for stuff that is potential word of like, hey, they're probably going to head towards a border. Okay, cool. Then you activate us, right? Because this is what we do. As well as if it's a tracking thing, I don't think there's another agency that tracks as well as we do because this is what we do daily. Yep. Right. And so it's like, if you need to track people, give us a call early, you know? And so by this time, I think it was 6 days down, and they gave us a call and we went out there to, you know, Donamora, I believe it was called, is the area, you know, as 2 escaped convicts. They ended up getting in a good relationship with one of the corrections officers who helped them escape. I believe it was a sexual relationship as well. I mean, there's a whole movie on it called Escape from Donamora or something like that. Okay. Ben Stiller did it, which is funny. My whole team was there besides me filming that. I was like, hey, I'm the actor, assholes.
Seriously. Oh man.
Yeah, so we were out there, we were pushing close to them. We were gathering intel. We're tracking. We showed up to a couple dry holes, but they were definitely there. We did boat ops to get to an island. We ended up doing air ops to get to an abandoned school that they were housing up in, and we kept just falling short. Right, we kept missing them by either hours or days, whatever it was. And about 7 days of the search, it's about day 7 of that, we thought we probably hit a dry hole. Everyone was kind of like, look, we have to kind of be standby. We have no intel. And my daughter's birthday was coming up, and I asked my team leader, I said, dude, do you mind if I fly home real quick to go to my daughter's birthday? And they were like, yeah, man, just go knock that out and come right back. I'm like, too easy, dude. So I flew home, man. I'm getting things prepped. And remember, like, I've been deployed for so many years. I've been busy for so many years. I've been doing military schools for so long. I miss every birthday you can think of. So it's kind of that time in my life where I'm like, please be a better dad. You know what I mean? Like, try and be home.
Right.
So that's going on in my heart at the time. I'm like, dude, I just got to see this girl's birthday. And so I flew home, man. And at this time, I was also part of a kind of the emotional response team as well. If someone's going through any kind of crisis, they can call me. I went through some training for that. So I'm sitting there. I'm actually preparing dinner for the barbecue. And I get a call from my team leader. And he goes, hey, dude, I don't know if you saw the news. I told my dad to turn on the fucking news. And
got him.
Yeah, they end up getting him. Yeah. And he's calling me saying, I know I'm supposed to call you for things like this. I'm like, dude, and I'm crying. I'm like, fuck you, dude. Are you kidding me? I fucking missed it, dude. I'm the medic, bro. And I left them hanging, and it ate my heart up.
It's so tough.
It hurt me so bad to leave them hanging like that. And I thought I was doing the right thing by my family. I ended up doing the wrong thing by my other family. Right.
So
and I'm trying to give everyone 100% of me, and someone's always going to fall short. And then that day, it haunted me, dude. And I actually resigned 4 days later.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. My heart was already kind of changing. I was doing some business stuff, that was making me a decent amount of money. I started to kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel, thinking I could be home more often with my kids if this business stuff does well. And being a half-ass medic was dangerous, and giving them, that excuse to go home. I never would have done that in Ranger Battalion. I've never would have done it early in my career, but I was going through, I was potentially going through my second divorce, and I was like, dude, I need to give these kids like everything. And so a lot of things in my life was transitioning into like, it's time to walk away from the running and gunning side of my life and focus on maybe this business side that was hopefully going to make me enough money to survive. And when my heart was making that transition, that's when I knew, man. I said, hey, I love you guys, but I got to hang it up, man. You guys are not getting the best version of me, and that's not fair. And so I resigned.
Well, I mean, it says a lot that you recognize that. A lot of people don't recognize when it's time. And what was the business you were working on?
I was part of Article 15 Clothing, man.
Okay.
We did Article 15 Clothing, and then we did, Lead Slingers Whiskey. And then we
still have some Lead Slingers whiskey. Is that still out there, by the way? Is that still?
It is. We're having some business issues, right? Like we got screwed over by a couple of distributors, and we're trying to, and then COVID didn't help. So we're still floating, man. I'm on those phone calls often trying to make that figured out. Warfighter Tobacco. I started Warfighter Tobacco with some friends, and that's going well. Still,
nice.
I'll send you some cigars.
Yeah,
man.
I think I was just looking at that a few months ago. Everything's blended into one long day over the last year, essentially. But I was looking at that not too long ago, I think, but I didn't know you were involved. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm going to send you something you can put right there in your background. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Awesome. I appreciate it. Man, well, that's cool. So you're doing multiple businesses, essentially.
Yeah, we kind of were doing serial business entrepreneur stuff, and the same guys who are involved in those things were the guys who went off and did Black Rifle Coffee.
Yeah.
So we just kind of split ways. We produced a movie called Range 15, and that was it for me, dude. I was like, okay, fuck this. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life.
Oh,
like, how do I do that?
Really? So that movie was the thing where you're like, wow, I love this.
That was it. Because we were doing YouTube, right? And it was kind of a touch of acting, but it wasn't really, right? We were making fun of ourselves, but I felt the same thing I felt in college when I was doing theater. And I was like, man, this is more on the path of where I'd like to take my life. I've always been a creative, but I've just always been good at the gun, man. I've always been good at the running and gunning. And I lost a lot of the creative side of me, and it was starting to come back with YouTube and these videos we were doing. And I really had a good time with it. And so when we decided to do Range 15, I knew like, I'm going to walk away from everything and give all my efforts into acting. Within a year of Range 15 coming out, boom, I landed Mayans.
No way. How did you learn on that? Like the process of getting an agent or putting a tape together or getting a connection to somebody? Like how did you go from, this independent film, for lack of a better term, I don't know, crowdsourced or however that was done, from there to landing Mayans? Like how did you go about figuring out what you're supposed to do? Because I think a lot of people are just like, I don't even know the first thing. Like how would you even know if there's an audition? And then do you have to do something first in order to get an audition, or can you just sign up, or does it depend on the project, or like how did you figure out what to do to even get Mayans?
I'm kind of a psychopath when it comes to researching, dude. You know what I mean? And so it started like I did theater in college. So I had a foundation of what, building a character. I had a foundation of understanding, the emotions you have to, and the intent. So there was already kind of a little foundation because I did theater because I needed an easy A, right? So I had a little
like
bit
that ceramics course.
Yeah. Got me, damn it. But, so I had a little bit of a background there. And then when we did Range 15, I was able to meet a couple people. But after Range 15, I made a short film. And so I used Range 15. I used a short film. I used a few other little improv comedy things I did. I made a reel. I knew I needed a reel, right? In my research, you need a reel. It's like the digital resume of showing you could actually put words on the film and look the part, right? Yep. And so I was able to make a reel. I had a bio. I did headshots because I was kind of ahead of the game. I knew what I needed to do. I knew where I needed to go. But I was in LA doing my second round of a comedy. Is this kind of a skit comedy, improv comedy called Dads in Parks. You can find that on YouTube. It's just like two dads sitting on a park bench and just ripping back and forth. And we just loosely wrote these concepts, and then we kind of we ad-libbed and improv the whole time, and they did really well. Nice. We ended up getting a contract with AMC movie theaters to do these clips before the previews started.
Oh, that's awesome.
Right? Yeah, so it was kind of cool. So we flew back there. Me and my wife flew to LA to do our second round of those. And I heard, I don't know where I heard someone said Mayans is still auditioning. And so I texted the only actor friend I've ever known to really do the thing. And it was a guy named Steve Howie, who was a big actor. He's on Shameless, right? He plays one of the characters on Shameless. And I said, Steve, I don't want to ask for much, man, but I would love to audition for Mayans. I just don't know what I need to do. He goes, dude, I know the casting director. Send me your reel, send me your headshot, send me your bio. I sent it to him. Dude, within 2 hours, I had sides in my fucking email and a schedule for the next day to go do the audition.
That's awesome.
And I was like, oh, well, this ain't that hard, right? Little did I know that's not the way this normally goes. It's kind of a Cinderella story, right? So I'm reading these sides, and we have a meeting, right? He shows up to a breakfast the next day. He goes, hey, dude, check it out. You've been at war. Don't fucking go in there scared. Go in there and do your fucking thing. Be off book, right? Be off paper, like memorize the lines, and go in there like you fucking own the place. I'm like, okay, cool. So we drive over there. I shave my head. I have a picture somewhere on my social media of the day me driving there, right? Where, I look like a badass in my head. I thought I did. And I knew the lines, right? I memorized the lines the best I could. I showed up there and did the audition. This is my first ever audition in real life. I've done one little thing when I was like 18, and it was nothing like this. And I bombed that one terribly. So this is like my first real opportunity of an audition. And me and my wife were like, what if we get this? And she's like, I don't know. Let's just see what happens. You know what I mean? And we did the first audition. She gave me a big old hug. She gave me a huge kiss on the cheek, huge kiss to my wife. And I'm like, it must be so nice here in Hollywood. You know what I mean? She loved us, right? So we flew back home at the time, still living in El Paso where I was an SOG member, right? Still in the same house when I was working. Okay. I get an email that Kurt Sutter wants to see me and do a second read. And so I get my second audition. And, we now have a comedy character and a serious character. So as I'm flying back, I had to fly back alone because my wife was there with the kids. My dad picked me up and he said, let's go. I said, cool. I said, I'm studying these lines. I'm just going to go over them. Like, just get there, right? I don't want to be late. So we get there. There's no one in the room. There's no other people auditioning. So normally I heard there's a lot of people auditioning. No, I just walked in. Kurt's in there. I think Elgin was there too, but I'm completely blacked out on it, right? It's such a blur to me. I know Wendy was there. And they said, you ready? I said, yeah. Shook everyone's hand. Started. Boom. Did the serious character again. This is the second time I'm doing this character because I did in the first one. Then I did the comedy character. And I'm going to tell you, I felt like Will Ferrell in Old School because I completely blacked out. I don't remember nothing.
Yeah.
I remember coming to, and we're all laughing. I'm laughing. I'm like full serious chuckle laughing.
Yeah.
Like a genuine laugh. They're laughing. And I'm like, oh. oh shit, I guess I did it, right? And shook their hands and I fucking left, right? And that's where my dad was like, Sonny, I wasn't jumping on my back. And then Kurt saw me. And then 1 week later, man, I'm on my first real Hollywood set.
Dude, that's amazing. That is awesome. And how long has this been now?
Man, we're coming up on 6 years because we did the first pilot and then they threw out the first pilot. I was like, okay, cool. I'm blessed. I had a chance. And then they repurposed my character. They blended mine and another character and gave me more. No way.
They threw out the pilot.
Yeah, dude.
That's wild.
It's unheard of, dude. Yeah. The money you
spend a lot on that pilot.
Yeah, and they threw it out. They said, nope, we're not doing that one. They didn't like it.
Interesting.
They got rid of a few actors they felt just weren't bringing the character to life.
Yeah.
They made my character a bigger character. I was told that my character was going to get killed. And I was like, cool, dude. I got my first. I don't care. I mean, you're going to kill me within the first minute.
Right.
I was pumped. Yeah. But they ended up repurposing my character. They brought him into this kind of this faction of 4 younger MC dudes. You guys ever watched the show? The first two seasons, it kind of portrays that. And yeah, dude. So we did the second pilot, and boom, it took off. And
wow. Now, so big difference between that first and second pilot in your eyes. Like, did you get to see the pilot that got thrown out, the end product?
No, didn't even get to see it. You know, I don't know what went wrong. To be honest, I wasn't even even intelligent enough at the time about film to know anything. I thought it was cool. And then we did the second pilot, and I was like, oh, it's a little bit more organized, a little bit more controlled. You know, the vision is there. And the characters, you know, one of the actors, they changed out for Michael Irby. His character is Bishop, but before him was a guy named John Ortiz. John Ortiz is a brilliant actor, like one of the most trained, brilliant actors out there. But what Michael Irby brought to that character was a little bit more grit that I was like, oh man, I see that. John Ortiz is great. He could pull off anything, but for Bishop, Michael Irby was perfect, dude. I just thought like, oh, I just think he's just brilliant at it. And so, you know, little changes like that, I think really brought the characters to life, the grittiness to them, the little bit more like honesty to that toughness. And yeah, man, we're going on season 5 now. The show is ending. This is the last of it. Yeah, we're wrapping up the series. We're wrapping it up, and and it's been a hell of a ride.
That's amazing, man. And you filmed all in LA? Or where you filmed that?
Filmed all in LA. Yeah, we have a studio. The Santa Clarita Studios is where we shoot out of.
Nice. So you would go back and forth like each week, and then come back weekends, or what were your?
Because like? I'm still on the whole trip of being a better father for my kids. I fly home every single weekend, every single break. I've negotiated that into my contract, a budget for travel. I'm here today. I'm actually flying out tomorrow to finish filming. Yeah.
No kidding. Is that one of your final episodes to film, or what do you got?
No, I have a couple more. I'm also a writer, so I'm writing episode 8 right now. Nice. So we're in the middle. Yeah, I'm
awesome. Part of Congratulations, that's huge.
Thank you. Yeah. So I got honored with getting a chance to write this season. You know, part of the guild now, and
nice.
I was helping kind of orchestrate my character. They said, "Hey, your character's a veteran. What are some ideas?" And I kind of throw some stuff out there. I wrote some stuff, and with their help, we ended up bringing it to life, and we've kind of continued down that path. And so this year, they gave me the opportunity to write. I graduated the Writers Guild Veteran Program, which is a beautiful program that they have for veterans. Any veterans out there that are looking to get into writing and screenwriting and learning, the Writers Guild has a veteran program. They do a writer's course about once a year. It took about 1.5 years. Graduated from that, and I told Elgin, I said, dude, graduated from this course. I've been helping with my character. What do I need to do to get on board? And he said, let's do it.
Nice.
And he blessed me with that opportunity, man.
That's awesome.
So currently writing episode 8 and stressed out like all hell.
Oh man, that's awesome. I love it. I love to hear that. And then what's going on? What are you thinking? What are you thinking as far as thinking ahead? Like when this thing wraps up and you have your wrap party, and then it maybe comes on, however many months later it premieres, and you watch it through the season. Like what's next for you? Writing and acting? Yeah. What's it looking like?
I'm trying to keep this, this entertainment lifestyle a thing. So, what we do, I have my representation, I have my managers, I have my agents, I have a literary agent, I have a book agent, I have an acting agent, a theatrical agent, right? We have the whole team, and everyone's out there fighting for me right now. I'm on them like a dog. I said, right now is when we work. Like, let's make things happen. My dream is to come into Hollywood as a showrunner.
Nice.
So I'm trying to make the steps towards becoming a showrunner.
And for those listening, showrunner, I didn't really know what a showrunner was until my show. And, because you grow up and you watch movies and you know what a director is. And then, when you watch credits on a TV show, you still see director on there at the end of the credits. And then, the show would start or whatever. So you don't really think about a showrunner unless you're in the business. Now it's becoming, people are understanding more about what it is just because people are interested in like what's going on with Game of Thrones or what's going on with this show. And then they start to hear this thing called the showrunner. And so I think it's people understand what it is a little more today. But for those listening,
right?
What's that?
It's like the facilitator of the show.
It's like, the singular point of contact I only have one experience with this, right? So it could be different for a show, but the singular point of contact essentially for everything, like everything comes back to this showrunner. Because in a show you have multiple directors, depending on how many episodes there are. You could have 7, 8, 24, whatever it is, different directors prepping those directors for what they're going to do coming up while you're currently filming the episode that you're in, while you're editing the one that you've just done. And the person that brings all that stuff together is the showrunner. So a lot of the responsibilities of like a director, when you think of a Steven Spielberg on set on like Raiders of the Lost Ark or whatever, a lot of that responsibility falls to a showrunner in series television. That's awesome, man. I love that.
Yeah, that's the goal. I want to get into show running. I want to be, I want to create my own shows. I feel like I'm working right now on seeing where this book goes. Maybe it can open up a Border Patrol show. I have all the experience. I have all the access to the Border Patrol. I've done it, lived it, and I'm also in Hollywood, so I don't see like it would be hard to do. But this is a career field that everyone has an idea, right? Everyone has a script. It's like in Nashville, everyone has a song. Everyone's a singer-songwriter. In Hollywood, everyone has a script, man. And so I have to have, the opportunity of someone still has to open up that door and give me the chance. And that's the dream, to be a showrunner, to be a show creator, and to continue to write and act. If I can continue to do all of those, man, I would be very happy. I love acting. There's something so therapeutic about it for me, but I also love writing. And so anything in those spaces, man, I'm going to continue to try and keep the lights on.
Oh man, I love it. Awesome. And the show, the book, when does that come out? Because I know I saw an early copy months and months ago. I read it and sent you the blurb for it. I thought it was fantastic, especially now. If you're just watching the news, like I think you need a little more context. If you're watching the 3-minute clip on the news or something like that, like read this book because it gives you the history. It gives you the personal side. There's some opinion in there from someone who has been there on the ground. So I highly encourage everybody to pick this book up. When is it coming out?
Yeah. So the book comes out November 15th. You can pre-order it right now anywhere you buy books, Barnes & Noble, Amazon, it don't matter. You can buy that book there. We'll be doing a book tour eventually. The PR is probably going to yell at me for mentioning it, but I don't care. I mean, this is what we do, man. The book is honest, man, and it's honest representation of what I did and what the career field does. I'm not an expert on immigration, but I am an expert in the Border Patrol job. And so I told the story of what it does. I think you guys would love it. Let your friends know. Like I said, you can pre-order it anywhere. It's called Borderline, written by Vincent Vargas, and Rocco wrote the foreword. And there's more to that I can't mention, but we'll mention it later. Awesome. And it's pretty exciting. But yeah, man, there's that in the TV show Mayans. If you guys are out there and you're looking for a show, it's a really good show. Go check out Mayans. It's on FX and Hulu. Season 5 it will be coming out shortly. I don't have an actual date on that, but I imagine it's going to be in the same time frame as the other ones, April, May sometime. And go check that out as well.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much. I want you to go spend some time with your family. Now I feel guilty that I took you for an hour and 24 minutes. So I want you to go spend some time with the family before you fly off and go film some more Mayans. So, man, thank you so much for spending this time. And thank you for giving me an early look at the book and for everything you've done for this nation, man. It's sincerely appreciated.
Thank you, man. Let's find some time. We don't live far from each other. So
I know. We got to link up with the UFC a little while ago, which was awesome. It was a great night. But let's do it again soon.
All right, brother. Thank you so much. You guys have a good night.
Take care, brother. All right, Navy Federal Credit Union. Those dreaded finances. Managing your money can be hard. They're competing goals, growing savings, paying debt, managing everyday and unexpected expenses, plus a little having fun. Navy Federal Credit Union takes the legwork out of saving and investing with a variety of choices. Want to supersize your savings earnings? They're offering some of their highest rates in 10 years. And whether you choose savings or investments, you can make it easier by automating. Plus, their website has articles, tips, and tools that make complicated subjects easier to understand. I've been a member since 1996, my first year in the Navy. For those watching, you can see my Navy Federal Credit Union Q card right there. And they have been awesome to me and my family over all these years. So check out Navy Federal's supercharged rates at NavyFederal.org/save and invest. Saving products insured by NCUA. Investment options are available through Navy Federal Investment Services and are not insured by NCUA. Check them out, NavyFederal.org. Aimpoint, proven, reliable, trusted. Absolutely love Aimpoint. Have a long-standing relationship with them as an end user. You can go to my Instagram and scroll through and see a couple pictures of me from Afghanistan back in the early days, rocking an Aimpoint. So they are near and dear to my heart. Aimpoint, the originator of red dot sight technology. Aimpoint has dominated the category since 1975. Originally developed for hunting purposes, the sights were adopted by the U.S. Army in 1997, 1 year after I went into the military. Today, Aimpoint sights are trusted by millions of elite forces, special forces worldwide, as well as professional hunters for dangerous game hunts. From novice shooters to the highest skill levels, Aimpoint sights are built to make the user most effective in high-stress situations. And yes, you did see the Aimpoint Micro T2 in the terminal list. It came out this past summer. This is mine right here. The T2 has been on this rifle for a year and a half, 2 years now. Absolutely love it. This thing is small. It lasts forever, and it is tough. So that's what I trust on my personal rifle here. And for anybody out there that's running ARs, I think you need that sling. You need a light, and you need an Aimpoint optic. So those would be the three things that I would put on any AR. And right here, it was designed for users who require an extremely rugged, lightweight, and compact sight. The Micro T2 optic has unmatched optical clarity and can withstand the physical abuse necessary for demanding end users, just like James Reese. Nice. Love it. Aimpoint's Elite Exclusives presents the configurations used by specialized units across the U.S. military and law enforcement agencies. This package consists of the Micro T2 red dot optic paired with a co-witness mount found only on the Aimpoint web store. This configuration is only available for a limited time, and right now, this March, if you purchase yours, you will receive a free signed hardcover of The Devil's Hand. I get a lot of questions about where people can find signed copies of my novels. And let me tell you, at aimpoint.com. So go check it out, aimpoint.info, that's INFO, /Jack Carr, and use code Jack Carr, that is JACKCARR, and pick your T2 up today. Today's episode is also brought to you by Black Rifle Coffee Company. Grab a can of Black Rifle Coffee's ready to drink, the perfect balance of quality and convenience. If you want a Spartan-level caffeine kick, try Ready to Drink 300, available in salted caramel, vanilla bomb, and more. Made with an electrifying blend of MCT oil and amino acids, Ready to Drink 300 packs a caffeine punch that'll supercharge your day. Ready to Drink is perfect if you need your coffee quick, and shopping with Black Rifle Coffee helps give back to the veterans and first responders who serve our nation. You can stock up on cans at blackriflecoffee.com or grab an ice cold can at a convenience store near you. You can stock up at blackriflecoffee.com /dangerclose and use code DangerClose20 at checkout for 20% off your purchase and your first coffee club order. blackriflecoffee.com /dangerclose for 20% off. Welcome to the gear highlight portion of the Danger Close podcast. All right, where to start today? Probably with this SIG pistol right here, the SIG P365. This one is from the custom shop right here. So let's check this thing out. Has a red dot sight on it. This is the Romeo Zero Elite. Oh, if you do not have a 365 or 365 XL, one of the variations that is out there, the X Macro, these things are awesome. So this is my everyday carry right here, one of those variations, and absolutely love it. And then right here, bam, optimized for concealed carry, optimized for these subcompact pistols. This is the SIG ammo. So I've been carrying this combination really since it dropped a few years ago. So very cool. So check them out. SIG 365. Get one. What else? Here we go. Montana Knife Company. Look at this one. This is the Fieldcraft Survival Blade right here. And what I love, love a lot of things about Montana Knife Company. Be sure and follow them. Very cool what they're doing up there. But they also now have leather sheaths, which I love. As soon as I saw it, I ran out and bought this one. So check them out. Montana Knife Company. Love what they are doing over there. What else? Check it out. Black Rifle Coffee, exclusive coffee club subscription. And this one right here, you sign up for this every month, you get a different roast. And look at that, George Washington crossing the Delaware right there. This talks about the different ways you can prepare said coffee. And here it is. This is this month's Beware the Delaware. Nice. So check out Black Rifle Coffee. If you have not, it gets delivered every single month. So you're not running out to buy coffee and you don't run out. And here we go. Park City Gun Club. Just got my mug. But if you're passing through Park City, check out Park City Gun Club. You can go there and actually rip full auto on a few different weapon systems. So go in there, say hi to those guys, hang out. It's a great facility, and you might see me there on the range. So Park City Gun Club, thank you guys for being awesome. And Code of the West, Chris Hunt over there at Black Rifle Coffee Company. Go check out the Code of the West on Instagram. You can link there to what you can get from those guys, t-shirts and hats. And Chris Hunt is the author illustrator of Carver, A Paris Story, which is an amazing graphic novel. So be sure and check that out. And look at that, going old school. Code of the West, awesome. And what's next? Naked right here, superfood right here. My buddy Trevor Sacco from my San Diego days, always love the things that he gets involved with. And this company right here, Naked, is one of them. And we've been, it's been like a year and a half since we've been using this stuff. But there's pasta sauces, there's hot sauces, there's salsa right here, which is delicious, by the way. But check them out. Naked Infusions right there. Trevor, congratulations. And Vertex. So check this bag out. Vertex sent this bag recently, and very cool in here. They have this, which tells you all of the different options you have for mounting lights, chem lights, knives, magazines, pistols, and all the rest in their bag. So go check them out. Vertex, always doing something cool. So thank you guys for sending this. It is sincerely appreciated. And all right, look at this. Boom. From GLG Knife Works. They were kind enough to send this case out. And in this case, a few different things. So what they make are tools that do not beep when you are wanded with a metal detector. So these are especially cool right here. Looks like a Home Depot pencil, but it's a little more. So that is very cool. And in here, let's check this out. Okay. Bam. Let's turn this thing on. Okay. In here, there's the knife. There's the pistol. There's the watch. All right. Let's see right here. So this is a like hair clip for the ladies who are running. Have this in your hair. Gives you a little something. Right here. Bookmark. That's nice. Bam. And here's one that has a little sheath. Sheath, non-metallic. Whole thing, non-metallic. Awesome. And here is the pencil. Awesome. Watch. Okay. GLG Knife Works. Check them out. That is awesome. And here's what was in that sheath. So there you go. Just in case. All right. And merch on the site. There are some new things on the site. Go to officialjackcarr.com. Click on shop in the upper right-hand corner. And if these aren't on there by the time this drops, they will be shortly. So new mugs. There's a whole bunch of other stuff on there as well. So check that out. Awesome. Thanks so much. Take care out there. Thank you for tuning in to the Danger Close podcast, an Ironclad original presented by Navy Federal Credit Union. Only the Dead, my next novel in the James Reese Terminal List series, hits shelves on May 16th and is available for pre-order right now. To find out more about Vincent Vargas, you can follow him on Instagram at vincent.rocco, ROCCO.Vargas. You can also go to vincentroccovargas.com. You can follow me on the social channels at Jack Carr USA, officialjackcarr.com. That is the website. You can click in the upper right-hand corner on Shop for the merch. And if you enjoyed this podcast, be sure and leave a 5-star rating and review wherever you get your podcasts. Until the next time, take care out there. Be safe, stay strong, keep fighting.